And welcome back to the booth here at the World Championship. That's Paul Chi, and I'm Marshall Sutcliffe, and there is an electricity in the air as we have reached the final round of Swiss, and the dust has not settled on this one yet. In our feature match area, we've got Josh Utter-Leyton. He is playing up against Owen Turtenwald. Josh is sitting at 8-5 playing blue-black here as we work our way into this last round. Owen Turtenwald on the other side of the table also at 8-5, and this, now depending on how some other matches go, could be a win in it.
It could be, but not necessarily. It's very likely to be, but there are a lot of different moving parts here because William Jensen has so many wins.
That's right. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that as we work our way through, but there's only one task at hand for our players right now: win this match.
Right. Nothing else matters. They have to play it out. We'll see what happens. Josh Utter-Leyton here on the blue-black control deck, which has had a very, very high win percentage game one against the Teamer energy decks. But after sideboard, I'm really interested to see what actually the game win percentage of the Teamer deck is post-board.
Yeah, you can tell that especially Peach Garden Oath here has put a lot of time in on that that sideboard for the blue-black matchup, as they've got a lot of good options. In fact, so many that it ended up being the dinner topic discussion last night after day one was over. No answer as of yet for a Long Tusk Cub. We have seen one of these kind of turn into a little runaway train if unanswered, but Josh, does he have something like a fatal push? Let's take a look at what we...
Josh is only on 2 lands here. Wow, and we're getting triggers off the Long Tusk Cub. I mean, that is the way the Teamer energy, that's how you win game one. You hope that the blue-black control deck stumbles a little bit. And, you know, Owen Turtenwald probably has one of those great 3-mana threats that he can play here.
And this is interesting. Josh is choosing to use an Essence Scatter over a Sensor here.
He needs to find a land.
He knows
has
he
to
can
cycle
dig
here. Or is he just going to pass? Okay, he's going to just keep up the Essence Scatter here and just continue taking hits from the Long Tusk Cub. But
this one's
missing
slipping away
a land
quickly.
drop so big.
This one's game one here is slipping away very quickly from Josh Utter-Leyton as the pressure is mounting from Owen Turtenwald's side of the battlefield. This is a Rogue Refiner.
Got to counter that too.
Yeah, he's going to have to use his Sensor. He can't just let it hit, but Turtenwald's going to cash in 2 energy, hit him for 3, get 2 energy right back again, play a land, and pass the turn. We'll note here, no double red mana yet on
that's
Owen's
a land
side, but it's okay. What did he find?
Oh, but it's a swamp. He's got some disallows.
This one could be over quickly, Paul. It also could swing right back in Josh's favor if he can find a good, clean answer for the Long Tusk Cub.
Yeah, he still has a decent chance here. He has an Essence Scatter for another threat that Owen Turtenwald might play, and if he draws a Fatal Push, he might still be in this. It's pretty clear that Josh Utter-Leyton does not have a Fatal Push here, so Owen Turtenwald trying to get in for as much damage as possible. Yeah, and Josh Utter-Leyton's hand is loaded, but he needs to find lands. He also needs to find an answer to this Long Tusk Cub. Now Owen Turtenwald trying to figure out what threat to play this turn, and he's opting... Did he opt actually not to play a threat? What's he working with here? Okay, he's got a Rogue Refiner and a Virtuoso, so he's going to play something this turn. It's just a question of what... Oh no, he opted not to play a threat.
Interesting. Pass the turn back to Josh. Normally we see the player kind of press that advantage as Josh does find a dual land here. Fedipool, but it's going to enter the battlefield tap, so the shields are relatively down once again for him.
Yeah, Owen Turtenwald playing around Essence Scatter there by not playing a threat. Maybe perhaps he was waiting to find a 6 land to be able to play double spell, so that even if Josh Utter-Leyton has an Essence Scatter, he can play 2 threats.
Trying to punish Josh for being a little bit crimped on mana here. No, Owen is content to just keep passing the turn back with the Long Tusk.
Josh needs to find a Fatal Push here. That's a 3rd Torrential Gearhulk.
He needs to find an answer right now. That Long Tusk Cub is a 5/5.
That's just lethal.
He's got 2 energy. That's 6. All Owen has to do is turn it sideways and say, "I'd like to activate this ability, please," and he can win the game.
Yeah, and Josh Utter-Leyton did not find Nebraska's Contempt either.
Oh, and Josh has to use Disallow.
Has Harnessed Lightning. He can Harness Lightning his Long Tusk Cub for 3 energy to pump it.
Yeah, and he has it. So that's Owen Turtenwald taking game number 1. I said it. That little cub can become a runaway freight train. And oh boy, did it ever. one creature went the entire distance there.
Turn 2 Cub.
Owen Turtenwald. Turn 2 Cub, go, and it went the whole distance. It killed him. So
Yeah, well, yeah, Josh Utter-Leyton, a lot of counter magic, but did not find that fatal push in time.
that is not how Josh wanted this thing to start off. He is now going to have to win 2 games, and as Paul said a little bit ago, it actually gets pretty tough post-sideboard. So we've got a lot more magic lined up for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after these messages.
Always know the right play to make? Show off your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With over 2,000 game stores worldwide running PPTQs, find an event near you at magic.wizards.com/PPTQ.
So Magic the Gathering Arena, we chose that word arena very particularly because an arena is a place where people gather, where people come to compete, where people come to spectate and cheer on their favorites. It really is a place where the whole community can come together and experience the very best of what Magic has to offer.
Welcome back to coverage here at the World Championship. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. We are in the last round of Swiss, and things are happening very quickly here. We saw Owen Turtenwald steal game 1 from Josh Utter-Leyton. I have another update. As well. Sam Black has won his match against Jerry Thompson, and that actually puts him in a kind of interesting scenario. He came in at 7-5-1. That bumps him up 1 win. He's actually live for top 4.
That's crazy. Normally, that would not be the case. Last year, X5's missed the top 4, but because William Huey Jensen is at 11-1, Sam Black could actually make the top 4 at 8-5-1.
It's crazy. Yeah, now he does need some things. Yeah, the things that he needs to happen, at least first and foremost, is for both Kelvin and Jensen to win their matches, both of them, right. And then he has a shot. So, you know, he's by no means a lock, but the fact that he's live at all really shows how much damage William Huey Jensen has done to this tournament at 12-1 coming into the round. Let's take a quick look here at Kelvin Chew versus Reid Duke. Reid with a pretty nicely built out board here, a pair of Rogue Refiners, a Thopter, and a, well, less exciting Glorybringer here sitting at 0-4.
Yeah, but that is a flipped Azcanta. He's got Azcanta the Sunken Ruin on the battlefield here. So he can definitely come back from this as long as he just, you know, hits some key removal spells off of the card.
Well, he has no cards in hand right now?
He currently has no cards in hand, which is why, I mean, I believe that is an Azcanta. That looks like an Azcanta the Sunken Ruin to you, right?
Yeah, right there in the middle.
Right,
yeah,
so
sure.
he could have also considered activating that main phase to see if he found an answer. like a Vraska's Contempt, but opted to play the Search for Contempt anyways, which is something he could have already done.
Well, he's going to take 7 here, barring him finding something cheap, some cheap removal. Oh, and there's a Glory Bringer for Duke as well. How about 11?
Yeah, Kelvin Chew can find an Essence Scatter here.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have to dig. He did back up Duke there.
Yeah, that's
I would assume that Glory Bringer's on the stack.
Yeah, the Search for Azcanta is still a little bit strange to me because what if he found a Disallow off of this? He probably would not have played that Search for Azcanta. Oh, he whiffed. He completely whiffed.
4, 7, 10, 11. Down to 3 goes Kelvin Chew. Now he has to find one of his sweepers?
Yep.
Well, he's going to use...
Does the Azcanta not flip?
He found a land.
Doesn't the... Can you opt not to flip it? I did not know that that was an option.
Yeah.
Oh, you may. Okay.
It is a may, yeah.
That is totally on me then. I thought it was a must.
Well,
but Kelvin couldn't find an answer.
He did not find anything. There was a land on top of his library, and that's Reid Duke picking up game number 1. So we've been talking a lot about William Huey Jensen and what a big effect he's had on this tournament based on the number of wins that he's accrued. One of the things that we can say here for sure is that if Jensen wins, he pushes that bar up to X and 5.
Right.
Right. That you're going to need a 9 and 5 finish to make it in, and anybody below that is going to have to settle for not.
So Sam Black really hoping that both William Jensen and Kelvin Chew comes out with the win.
I should put that differently, by the way, Paul. 9 and 5 becomes certainty.
Right.
You may, barring shenanigans, be able to get in at X5 and 1, something.
If William Huey Jensen wins.
Yeah, but if Jensen wins, you get. If you're X5 and Jensen wins, you're in.
It gets even more confusing, however, if William Jensen loses.
Yeah, well, that's
meaning Javier Dominguez will be at X and 5, and if Kelvin Chew loses, he'll be X and 5. Reid Duke also will be X and 5.
It gets a little crowded pretty quickly, doesn't it?
Right. Then an X5 will not make it.
So this is getting.
We actually have the potential here for all 3 members of the Peach Garden Oath to make the top 4. They are live for that possibility. Wow.
All right, well, while we let our 2 players finish getting shuffled up in Mulligan, we've got an update from Tim down on the floor.
Yeah, I've got a few updates for you from one of the key matches in this feature match area, that being William Huey Jensen against Javier Dominguez. Dominguez described his hand in game 1 as being basically perfect. He had Courier on turn 1, curve 1, 2, 3, 4 into Hazaret, picked up a quick game 1. They're now in the middle of game 2, and both players have Hazaret in play, thanks to the good old Scarab God.
Oh, I see Javier Dominguez bouncing around in the background there. Oh, he is feeling the stress. Now, these 2 players, trust me, they're also feeling it. This is an extremely high-tension match for them, but they're also grizzled pros. I mean, they are going to be all business at the table, but I'll tell you what, this is not just another match of Magic for either of these. This is really what it comes down to for them.
Yeah, top 4 of the World Championships, first place prize of $100,000.
Paul, I can tell you, you saw Javier Dominguez jumping around.
He looked happy.
It's because he won.
He won.
He won his match, so he just defeated William Huey Jensen. Now, Jensen fans out there, don't worry. He's 12-2. He's into the top 4. He's the one who's a lock. But now Dominguez moves himself into the 9 and 5 slot. And we're going to get some shenanigans afoot here as we work our way down, because now it's wide open.
Yeah, and what that means, with William Jensen losing, that means Sam Black can no longer make the top 4.
Mm-hmm. He needed Jensen to win. He needed Chew to win.
Right.
I did play some spells in that game.
Players breaking the tension a little with some chit-chat.
Yeah, these players have played each other countless times, I'm sure, on the Pro Tour and Grand Prix.
And they used to test with each other as well back on the old Team Channel Fireball.
Okay.
Looks like Owen Turtenwald maybe going to 6 here.
What more could you ask for? Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah. Look at those numbers. 2 Hall of Famers battling it out.
Oh, there's one Hall of Famer.
Oh, and the Hall of Fame.
This guy's been here before.
Elect.
See, welcome to the booth.
Oh my god.
Right.
Am I really sure that I have to do this? I'm just burning up a card.
Yeah, even when you know you
That is
have to,
9
like,
Pro
I
Tour
really
top
don't
8s
want to,
facing
like,
off
Is
against
there
each
any way
other
that I
here.
just cannot do that?
Yeah.
All right, looks like we're just about ready to get back underway here for game number 2. You see some of the other players around the feature match area, they're interested too, right? Everybody's testing with other people. They want to see who's going to be the next world champion for the game that we all love.
Lots on the line. Yeah, Javier Dominguez with an excellent day 2 here, rattling off a ton of wins.
5 cards.
So 1 Ramunap red deck in the top 4. There were, I believe, 10 in the tournament, right? 10 people, 9 or 10 people registered, or 9.
We're good to go.
That's 5 cards for Owen Turtenwald.
Wow.
Yep.
So we might potentially have a quick game 2 here as well. Although, granted, the blue-black control deck doesn't really win especially fast.
Make green. Your turn.
All right, so there is a sensor,
Okay.
which is going to take down the first play of the game for Owen, which is a servant of the conduit. Uh-oh, he's missing land drops. Now, we're not super surprised to see this,
Right.
given the fact that he's on 5 cards, but not good news for Owen Turtenwald fans around the world, as Josh Utter-Leyton is hitting his land drops this time
Right.
and is 1 step ahead of Turtenwald, who's missing land drops and does not have any threats going whatsoever.
Interesting. Owen Turtenwald opting to bring in Essence Scatter in this
Oh,
matchup.
really?
Wow.
Not really what he wants to see here, as it's not going to be relevant for a while, but hey, he'll take it.
I guess maybe he thinks it is a better answer to cards like the Scarab God and Torrential Gearhulk than a card like Harness Lightning.
Could see it. There's Search for Escanta there for Josh Utter-Leyton. He earlier in the tournament described the card as broken,
Yeah.
which
well,
is about the biggest compliment that you can give a card if you're a professional Magic player.
absolutely. And just the ideal start out of Josh Utter-Leyton here. Gets that Search for Escanta going. Really needs to just make sure he hits his lands, which is why he's opting to get rid of the sensor. It builds his graveyard, gets him 1 step closer to flipping that Search for Escanta, giving him additional mana sources to play with.
Well, a Rogue Refiner can help get things right back on track for Owen, though. Oh, another sensor. Those are so brutal.
Are those, is that all 4 sensors?
Yeah, his graveyard has 4 sensors and Evolving Wilds right now, Paul. So, Josh, content.
Yeah. So he's now utilizing this the scry effect essentially for the Escanta. He could have actually cycled the Hieroglyphic Illumination in his hand to flip it this turn.
And land go from Josh Utter-Leyton. He passes the turn back to Turtenwald, who really needs to get things rolling, and he does find another Rogue Refiner off the top of his library.
Does Josh Utter-Leyton have an answer to this?
He doesn't want to let this resolve. These are annoying threats that he has to deal with at some point, and of course, letting the card draw start to flow for Turtenwald means more land drops and more problems.
One thing Josh Utter-Leyton could actually opt to do here is there's a Rogue Refiner on the battlefield, but Josh Utter-Leyton has a Field of Ruin in play. He could use the Field of Ruin to get rid of one of Owen's mana sources, which will then trigger Revolt, and that will allow his Fatal Push to get rid of the Rogue Refiner. Because he's not down a land here. He can just cash it in for actually better mana. And yeah.
I think he's doing just that.
Yes. There's no real utility land anymore because, of course, the mana lands have rotated out of Standard. So, yeah.
Yeah, those creature lands saw a lot of play during their time, and they are missed, especially by some of the blue-black type decks. A lot of times they lean on those type of decks to help finish the game.
Right.
You know, anytime you can have a win condition that doesn't take a spell slot, and you can use that spell slot for an answer, they're pretty interested. There it is.
Yep.
Fatal Push to take down the Rogue Refiner. So a slick little play there on end step for Josh Utter-Leyton, who is now resolving the trigger.
Don't need that land.
Surge,
He's
going to find the Ruin.
He's hit kind of the magic number for control decks. That's 6. We are now in Torrential Gearhulk territory.
Let's see if he has one.
No, he's got a lot of faces though.
That is a lot of faces, and now he's actually found a target for it. Does he want to Essence Scatter this?
Yeah, it works out perfectly because he can actually Essence Scatter and then still use Askant to the Sunken Ruin to find something. And he's going to do this now to kind of conceal the fact that he has an Essence Scatter in hand already. So for example, if he reveals an Essence Scatter off of this, it can make it seem like he didn't have one in hand because he cannot have a sensor as he's gone through all 4. So yeah, that's what he's actually opting to do here.
So he finds the Essence Scatter. Owen's going to be like, come on!
And then he's just going to use that one face up to conceal his hand.
And tricky stuff from Utter-Leyton because he does actually have another copy of Essence Scatter. Owen will probably think, well, it's less likely that he has one, but not impossible. Owen's no spring chicken himself.
Although I still may have considered just taking the disallow there, because what if Owen went for something like a Chandra this turn?
Oh, you could be in big trouble.
Exactly.
Now he's going to have to use that Essence Scatter out of his hand now, unless he wants to start deploying Vizier of Many Faces. No, he's going to go for the Essence Scatter.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh Utter-Leyton, 1 for 1 while drawing a card every single turn. Eventually, he's just going to bury Owen in card advantage.
Oh, and there's a Torrential Gearhulk right off the top of the library, Paul.
Right.
That is some business right there. Like you said, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, but he's drawing an extra card a turn thanks to Askant to the Sunken Ruin, and now he's going to get a 2 for 1 off of this Torrential Gearhulk. Yeah, if Owen goes for anything.
Is he going to go for this Chandra here? He is so far behind. And the thing is, Josh Utter-Leyton, knowing that Owen could potentially have Essence Scatter, I think he might just go for either an Illumination or utilize the Askant to the Sunken Ruin instead of just playing out a Torrential Gearhulk here.
Turtenwald's decided to
he just
pass,
keeps
but
building his hand. Look at that.
Disallow goes into hand for Josh, and you can get
he might cycle the Illumination here, actually, just to find lands.
That's exactly what he does. He finds a Fatal Push instead, but you can see why he loves Search for Askant so much. It is just completely dominating this game at this point, and he does find a land, though, with his draw step.
Yeah. This is going to be really hard for Owen to come back from. Yeah. It's, you know, we saw a previous match where Jerry Thompson just conceded to Josh Utter-Leyton at 20 life. He was just like, I am not going to win this game. You have way too many cards. And we're kind of approaching that territory here. Look at Josh's hand. He might even let he could potentially let this resolve as he has Nebraska's Contempt in hand.
Kind of interesting. Owen has a very reactive hand. He's got a pair of Essence Scatters, but also a Negate.
Alternatively, he can just go for the disallow here. If Owen Turtenwald has a negate, then he can still untap and use Vraska's Contempt to get that Chandra off the board.
Yeah, take a little hit, but nothing too crazy. He's at 20.
Oh, he actually has mana to do both this turn.
Yeah, negate. And that's likely to just resolve here. And like you said, Owen's going to get his 1 hit, but it's nothing. It's just 2 damage.
And I think Josh Utter-Leyton's probably just going to use the Contempt here.
Yeah, how you like that 2 damage coming right back at you, Josh Utter-Leyton, back up to 20.
And look at his hand. It is just totally loaded.
This thing is over.
Yeah.
There's no way that Owen can come back from this, right? I mean, we've seen some unlikely comebacks this weekend, but this one just seems way out of reach.
Yeah. Okay. Josh has a Fatal Push in hand, so I don't think he's too concerned about this.
No, Long Tusk Hub resolves. Knock yourself out, he says.
Yep. Oh, another 1 for 1, but wait, I get to look at the top 4 cards of my library and find another counterspell or removal effect.
And this, of course, is the problem here, is that he's got the engine rolling, and Owen just doesn't. He's just at the mercy of the top of his
another
library.
disallow.
How much more can Owen take?
Wow.
He has no real incentive to concede here.
Of course, I mean, there's just so much on the line.
Yeah, there's so much on the line, and game 1 was so fast. And he just has to sort of sit here patiently drawing his card. But, of course, Owen's going to be keenly aware of the fact that he is desperately behind here in game number 2.
That's an elimination. Which I actually don't think he's going to cycle here unless he has an Essence Scatter, because I think he wants to keep up counter magic. He wants to keep up that disallow in case Owen decides to go for a Torrential Gearhulk. Although I don't know if he actually has a good spell to cast off the Gearhulk. So he might actually go for it, because if Owen goes, okay, in response, I'll cast a Gearhulk that doesn't, Gearhulk negate, I don't know if that's the end of the world.
Sure. Yeah, well, Owen just said, yep, you got it.
So many cards.
Yeah, this is, I'm like starting to get a little jealous of Josh here. Look at his hand.
I've been jealous.
Yeah.
All right. right.
No.
Is Owen going to run out of thread?
He found himself a bristling Hydra, but so what? It just
Yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point.
He's going to cast it.
He can opt to go for a Torrential Gearhulk here. Yeah, I believe he has a Disallow in his graveyard, right? So he can go for Gearhulk here. Owen can only have one counterspell here, and Josh can win that counterfight, and then maybe start, you know, actually attacking Owen here. So this could be a reasonable opportunity to actually go for Gearhulk, as he does have protection for the Essence Scatter.
And there's the Essence Scatter, but there's the Disallow out of hand.
And then I imagine he's going to use the Essence Scatter out of the graveyard here and save those Disallows for potential Chandras and other actual spells.
Pretty complicated stack that happened there, but at the end of it, it's Torrential Gearhulk on the battlefield, and Turtenwald's down a Bristling Hydra, as well as a Negate, or excuse me, an Essence Scatter.
And Josh Utter-Leyton might actually just, if he wants to continue putting pressure, he could just play a Vizier of Many Faces here, cast Hieroglyphic Illumination, copy Torrential Gearhulk, and have 2 5/6s on the battlefield.
I like that plan, honestly. And that's going to do it. Owen Turtenwald knows that there is a mathematical 0 chance for him to win this one, and he is going to scoop up his cards. So,
Game 3.
Deep breath, everybody. We're going to a Game 3. This could be a game that decides one of these players' fate in this tournament as far as making it into the top 4. Let's take a look, though, at the table next to them. That is Kelvin Chew.
Look at that sigh of relief from Josh Utter-Leyton. He's like, all right,
got
one
one
time, let's do this.
Yep, and then playing against Reid Duke. This is game number 2. We heard that Reid Duke had won the first game against Kelvin. In fact, we got to see the end of it here on camera. And oh boy, Reid Duke is winning this game too. That's Glorybringer. Extends the hand from Kelvin Chew, and Reid Duke just won his match 2-0.
Wow.
Reid is now 9-5, and guess what? So is Kelvin Chew and Javier Dominguez.
Yeah, so now things are getting super interesting. We're now going to have 4 players at X5 along with William Huey Jensen at 12-2. So one X5 will not make the top 4. Who's got the worst tie breaks?
It makes me nervous just thinking about it. Now, this last match, this is where we get to take a little bit of a breather.
Yeah.
Because both Paulo Vitor Damarosa and Seth Manfield are at 7-6. They are no longer in contention for the top 4. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not playing anything. The prizes go deep, and they're playing for pro points here.
There's not much at stake here. Just, you know, several $1,000s and a pro point. That's all.
Yeah, it's funny.
For one match.
You
play Magic with your friend for nothing, and then they are playing for thousands of dollars with just this one match.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
You lose context because of the $100,000 top prize, and it's like, what is this for, $2,500? Like,
yeah.
But seriously, this is an important match for them, and let's not discount the pro points as well. That matters as well. So
Paulo Vitor actually going on an incredible run day 2. He started off day 1 at 2-5, and he's 5-1 on the day.
Jeez.
That is.
Yeah, I heard Luis say that on the news desk earlier today, that if anybody could do it, he could peel off a bunch of wins. And,
right. Well,
he's had a certainly above average day, not quite enough to put him in contention, but still, that's very impressive.
Yeah. His only loss today coming to Javier Dominguez, actually, in the Ramanap Red Mirror.
Well, a pretty busy board here. Seth Manfield down to 3 life and up a game, but it looks like he just had a big attack with the Glorybringer that kind of cleaned up the mess. Hazaret the Fervent, though, on the battlefield for Paulo. It looks like he has no cards in hand, so this is about as close as they get.
Yeah, I imagine, I mean, this is a huge chunk of damage.
That's
4, that's 11 damage, right? That would put Paulo to 6 life, meaning Paulo needs to find either a Lightning Strike or a Shock to maybe get the Servant of the Conduit off the board. He could also draw Glorybringer.
The good news is those spells are good enough to win on their own, so we don't have to have the 6 sweat we did last time, Paul. This is about as close as they get. Manfield, is he going to pass?
Yeah, I mean, Paulo has many good cards. Earthshaker Ken would do it too.
Hold your breath,
Here we go.
Seth Manfield. No Lightning Strike.
Does he find it? I don't think so. I don't think he did.
He's going to pass a turn back to Seth Manfield. He's left Hazret the Fervent back.
Oh, but Paulo's still not dead here either. He can't just block with Hazret the Fervent.
Yeah.
Put Seth Manfield down to 1,
Yes.
and then that's lethal. Seth actually still needs to draw out of this.
Absolutely. He exerted the Glorybringer last turn.
Presumably to get a threat off the board.
Yeah, he killed Karizev with it, which would have been
okay.
as well.
That's a Rogue Refiner. What can he draw? He could draw Glory. Wait, no, Glorybringer would not do it because his Servant of the Conduits would be tapped.
You're
Paulo's
right.
at 6, and
He
Paulo
would
can
get
just
it
block
to
the Bristling
2.
Hydra. Oh, this is so close.
Seth is lining up an attack here, but this could be just a test, just to see.
Maybe he'll forget to block.
Yeah. He remembered. It was a Soul Scar Mage, but that's just 2 damage going to Seth Manfield's head.
That's it. To you.
End step. Untap, and this is going to be game.
This is game 3
for Paulo Vitor Damarosa, but that means that, yeah, as you just said, Paul.
I think that was a Sun-Scorched Desert too. So
it is. That's actually lethal.
just in case he had a disallow.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have actually played around it, right? Disallow that trigger, but still have
Rabbit Up.
Yeah, very nice. All right. And that's going to do it for game number 2 there as they head on to game number 3. You can see that our feature match area is getting cleared out relatively quickly here. But, ooh, this is a big one, kids. Not time to go get a sandwich right now. You're going to want to hang out for this one because it's Josh Utter-Leyton versus Owen Turtenwald. They are playing for their tournament life here. The winner is going to put themselves into the fray for top 4. The loser of this match, no chance.
Owen with a pretty solid hand here. He can actually play a Whirler Virtuoso, but then that would put him on 0 energy if Josh Utter-Leyton has a counterspell for it, meaning that he won't actually have access to blue mana after that. He does have an appetite for the unnatural, and I think I saw a search for Escanta in Josh Utter-Leyton's hand. Ooh, but he's got an Essence Getter. I think he's just going to pass.
Of course, very useful to get that search down as soon as possible to start generating value from it. But you don't want to leave the shields down on turn 3 against Teamer Energy. They can play some pretty nice little threats here.
Oh yeah, he actually has a Servant of the Conduit here.
Perhaps playing around Censor.
Well, he could have played it on turn 2. So I imagine he drew it for the turn.
Okay, so that's probably just his draw step.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yep.
But he is playing around Censor here.
Yeah, that does get him around it, so incidentally, at least.
I think Josh just needs to be able to get threats off the board, so he's happy with the 1-for-1. I know he's leaving himself a little bit vulnerable to the next spell, but Owen doesn't know that either. Owen might, for example, if Owen had a land Bristling Hydra next turn, he might still just not play. Oh, and he drew Censor. All right.
He has 1 more land to play.
Yeah. So this actually lines up. This looks pretty reasonable for Josh Utter-Leyton here. Taking a look at his hand, he does have the Censor, so he can actually, if Owen Turtenwald walks into the Censor, he can censor something and still cycle the Illumination to try to find counter magic. Oh,
you know what? This is tough because Owen doesn't have another land drop, so it's going to be a Tune with Ether land 3-drop, and that is censorable.
Yeah, or he could, in order to play around Censor. Oh no. He has only the 3 drops because, of course, he played the Servant of the Conduit last turn.
That's right.
This, just sequence of draws working out very well for Josh Utter-Leyton as he drew the Censor this turn.
That's right. Owen Turtenwald has his choice between Rogue Refiner and Whirler Virtuoso this turn, and then he can line up that Hydra for the next turn after that.
And I think Owen...
he's going to go for a Refiner. No, he's going to lead off with the Whirler Virtuoso first.
Josh Utter-Leyton's going to cycle Illumination in response to, again, conceal his hand, making it, seem like, oh, I top decked this 2-mana removal effect. Oh, and he did!
He actually ripped an Essence Scatter, but still, he's got to get that Censor value.
Definitely. Josh Utter-Leyton does need to find a land here.
Yeah, he is on the brink of potentially missing a land drop. Ooh, he finds an island right off the top. That's exactly what he wanted to see. Let's take a look at his hand. We know that he just added an Essence Scatter to that.
This is perfect. He gets to play Search for Escanta and keep up Essence Scatter this turn.
Looking good. For Josh Utter-Leyton, he passes the turn back to Turtenwald.
Now, Josh Utter-Leyton currently on 4 cards in the graveyard. Owen might be tempted to try to fire off that appetite for the unnatural here. I don't think he saw negates from Josh Utter-Leyton in game 2, so this might be the best opportunity to fire off the appetite for the unnatural to get that Search for Escanta off the board. Owen is aware of Josh Utter-Leyton's list. He does play 4 Essence Getters 4 sensors and 4 disallows.
All right, well, land number 5 off the top for Turtenwald.
But
He
this
does get
just
to play
lines up
around
perfectly.
It, but Essence Scatter is going to take care of Bristling.
And in order, if Josh Utter-Leyton wants to play around this appetite for the unnatural that Owen might have, he might cycle here. Oh, but he opts not to.
He's just going to discard a second copy of it. Well, I shouldn't say discard. He's going to put it in his graveyard from the library there.
Yeah, and he doesn't
legendary.
actually have a way to protect that search for Azcanta. So that's Josh Utter-Leyton's main source of card advantage. I mean, his hand is still loaded, but he could have flipped the search for Azcanta this turn. And I think Owen, he kind of has to go for the search for Azcanta. That is one of Josh Utter-Leyton's primary win conditions. With that appetite for the unnatural, I think he has to go for it here.
Now, interestingly, as it turns out, if Owen could see Josh's hand here, oh, he would have such an easier time with it, right? Josh has 2 clunky draw spells in his hand in the form of Hieroglyphic Illumination. And those are cards that can get him ahead as well, but he needs to find the window to resolve them.
Yeah. He could also opt to do this on upkeep, on Josh Utter-Leyton's upkeep, because Josh Utter-Leyton has 5 lands in play. If he has a disallow, he's going to disallow this, right?
Yep.
So it's better to actually potentially do this on upkeep if Owen Turtenwald doesn't have a negate to protect his appetite for the unnatural.
Now, what is Josh doing here? Because he's kind of feigning as if he's thinking about something, but looking at his hand as 2 Hieroglyphic Illumination.
He could cycle for a disallow.
He could cycle for disallow. Okay, but he's decided that the raw card advantage is going to be more important, as it's unlikely that he actually hits disallow with it.
Yeah, so despite the fact that that search for Azcanta went to the graveyard, he still has 2 copies of Hieroglyphic Illumination. That's still a lot of 2-for-1s that's resolving on Josh Utter-Leyton's side.
It's just that he needs the window with which to do that, as it's a little slow at 4 mana.
Right.
Well, it was 3 cards down the disallow, as it turns out.
Yeah, but Josh still looking pretty great here. He's resolved that Illumination. He has another one, and he has some counter magic here for Owen's threats.
Yeah, that disallow was a key draw. Without that, his hand was pretty clunky, just a Vizier of Many Faces. And actually he drew another Hieroglyphic Illumination, so still 2 of them in his hand. That could have been an important window for Owen to resolve a big threat, but the disallow could easily keep that off. It looks like an Attune with Ether, though, for Turtenwald is his play.
Yeah, so
he's got a pair of Rogue Refiners and a Gearhulk in hand.
Yeah, so he might wait a turn so that he can maybe play 2 Rogue Refiners in a turn. Because now that Josh Utter-Leyton has access to 6 mana, he is representing Torrential Gearhulk here. But Owen opting to just put on the pressure here.
Rogue Refiner would be a fine addition to the board. He has yet to dent Josh Utter-Leyton's life total. Josh sitting in a cool 20 life. Josh says, okay,
4 mana, draw 2.
Worst case scenario, this resolves. I can live with it.
Some instant speed divinations here.
But if I find an Essence Scatter, I wouldn't hate every minute of it.
Wow, and that's another disallow.
Yeah, he finds another disallow that he can't cast right now, but also the Scarab God.
Right.
Things are starting to shape up here for Utter-Leyton.
So this is
game number 3.
Resolve. I think Josh Utter-Leyton is cycling here because he wants to find a land. He wants to be able to play Vizier of Many Faces while also being able to keep up the disallow. So that is the reason why he went for the cycle. Did he find land number 7?
No, he did not. He found a Censor, and he found another disallow off of that cycle. So he is pretty bulletproof as far as the game goes going forward with 3 copies of disallow in hand. And, you know, he's really not facing that much pressure here with just the Rogue Refiner. It's only 3 power.
Right, right. So he might actually just opt to pass here. He could play the Vizier of Many Faces and hope to find a land, but I think that's a little bit risky. That does leave himself very vulnerable. So I think the more prudent play here is to just pass, take the hit for 3. If Owen opts to not attack, he can choose to cycle that Censor and then put himself in a situation, again, he has 2 draw steps to find a land to be able to play Vizier plus disallow.
Yeah, you know, if Owen just slams a Planeswalker or something, if you make that greedy play and miss, oh, you are in miserable
Gearhulk.
mode. Gearhulk off the top, so not a land.
Right, but if he doesn't find a land, he could at least still, you know, bait a counter by playing a Torrential Gearhulk end of turn and then untapping.
He found a Fatal Push, so not really what he wanted to see there. He's got 7 cards in hand as he passes the turn back to Turtenwald, but this one's starting to slip away from Owen slowly but surely. He's going to need some fireworks here to get back into it.
But Josh Utter-Leyton does have that scrappy play that we've seen before. Field of Ruin your own creature, Fatal Push,
your
3-mana card.
That's right. Okay, another Rogue Refiner, though, for Owen Turtenwald.
And Josh's hand is full of counters. He needs to just start firing off these disallows, just so Owen doesn't develop too big of a board here.
Look, he left the Field of Ruin up.
He could go for it here. It does allow him to kind of utilize his mana. And there's not a whole lot else Owen could do on 4 mana here. So this is a reasonable way to kind of just make use of that Fatal Push.
So he gets to take out perhaps a blue mana source here, go find a swamp.
Yeah, he could have also taken the Ether Hub, as that does give Owen the black source if he ever resolves the Confiscation Coup on a Scarab God.
Good point.
But this also lowers the number of blue sources. Well, I guess the Ether Hub is also a blue source, but it does require him to use energy. And Owen does sideboard into lots of, you know, a very blue-heavy sideboard with Torrential Gearhulks and such.
That's right, and there it is.
And
Fatal Push to take the last threat off the battlefield, Paul, and things once again swinging firmly in Josh Utter-Leyton's direction. He finally finds that land as well, which gives him a little bit more flexibility, but still, it's just pass the turn back to Turtenwald, who's down to just 2 cards left in hand.
Two good
+1
cards
from his draw step. That's what he drew for the turn to serve into the conduit.
Yeah, I don't think Josh Utter-Leyton's too concerned about that. So now he's going to go, oh, so he's going to go for this Gearhulk, but Owen Turtenwald has Supreme Will. He can fire off a Supreme Will here, and then on the following turn, he's going to get some value because he can actually play Torrential Gearhulk to cast Supreme Will to search, to kind of dig deep. Alternatively, Owen can just cast a Gearhulk here and cast Appetite for the Unnatural onto Torrential Gearhulk, which is what I think he's actually looking to do.
Yeah, he's going to do that now. He says, you know what, I've got an answer in my graveyard. I want the Gearhulk. You don't get one. Josh does, though, get 2 cards off of Hieroglyphic Illumination, which is the card that he decided to target with his Torrential Gearhulk.
So Owen doing the best that he can. You know, he doesn't have a ton of resources, but that was a good amount of value. Josh Utter-Leyton, however, does have Vizier of Many Faces, which you can use to copy the Torrential Gearhulk if he does have a removal spell. I don't think he's cast Vraska's Contempt this game yet.
No.
But at the very least, they would bounce off of each other, and that would give him some time. He could actually just use it to cast a Hieroglyphic Illumination, meaning that's just even more card draw.
Josh,
Just
this is
more
still
cards.
Owen's end step, by the way, and he's going to cycle a card before that happens, and he's going to go to his turn.
Yeah, so he can still play Vizier of Many Faces, copy Torrential Gearhulk, cast Hieroglyphic Illumination, draw 2 cards, and still have Disallow up. And that's Vraska's Contempt.
He found it right off the top of the library. Owen's
but I think
on
I'd be
0.
I think I'd be really interested here in still copying that Gearhulk to have my own on the board.
Yeah, get you a nice board presence, get you some value.
Owen's only on 1 card in hand.
It's a Supreme Will. We know that. Josh does not. He has not seen Owen's hand.
Also, come on. 4 mana, 5/6, draw 2 cards.
Oh.
That's a powerful Magic card.
I'm loving that. It also effectively neutralizes the other Gearhulk here to help protect Josh's life total.
Let's draw some more.
Draw some more.
I love that from Josh.
Draw all of the cards.
Yeah, he's already played his land for the turn.
That's a Scarab God as well. Josh's hand is loaded.
You also heard Josh say, I'm going to clone this. That's a throwback all the way to Alpha.
Yeah.
This is just another version of a clone Vizier of Many Faces.
So I think Owen might have drawn a Whirler Virtuoso. Okay. And Owen does have access to 9 energy. That is a pretty nice threat. And he has the Supreme Will to back it up here.
First things first, though, for Turtenwald, he's going to attack not with 1, but with 2 creatures. If Josh wants to make the block on the Gearhulk, it's going to cost him 2 life. If he decides that he just wants to eat up,
I think he wants to just get the
2/2,
value here.
he's going to take 5. But as we know,
this is going to be big.
Contempt is going to get countered here, right?
Yeah, it's going to get countered, and then Owen's also going to be able to play the Whirler Virtuoso.
Wow! So Josh with the shields fully down.
That's 4 Thopters that Owen can make.
So 4 Thopters plus Owen gets in for 5 damage right here, right now, and of course Josh wouldn't gain any life.
Yep.
This is a big deal.
Yep. And Josh is going to go down to 9.
That's right.
And Josh doesn't have a lot of mass removal here, so that's 4 Thopters that he needs to deal with. He's up a lot of cards, but
Yeah. We may have a game on our hands here. He has been firmly ahead on cards the whole time. You gotta feel like he's going to be able to leverage the amount of card advantage he has. Look at his grip. He has 7 cards. Owen has none. He's on 0 cards. He's got to be able to find a way to win from there.
I do see a Scarab God in Josh Utter-Leyton's hand. I don't know if there are any flyers currently in play that he could eternalize. He could potentially use a removal spell to get the Whirl of Virtuoso off the board, then put it into play with the Scarab God.
He does have another Vraska's Contempt in his hand now.
He could also use Disallow to as a removal spell for one of the Thopters if he really wanted to.
Do what you got to do.
Yep.
You might just be able to race here.
Yeah, and Josh, I believe, hasn't played a land yet this turn.
That's right. Passes the turn back to Turtenwald, who's going to make a Thopter.
Question is how many Thopters does he make? He's so far behind on cards here. I think he just has to make 4 tokens here.
Cash him in.
All right. So now Owen, all he wants to do is just draw some negates.
Oh,
He's trying to ride these Thopters to victory.
He drew a land for the turn.
And now Josh, he has access to Fatal Push and Disallow. Does he take the 4 here?
He does. He falls down to 5. Nope. Oh, this is getting very close. Again,
like,
you have to think that Josh's advantage is big enough that he can get the job done.
Yeah. So he's going for the Fatal Push, but there was a slight pause because he's like, man, if you have a second Torrential Gearhulk, this is going to really suck.
What do we got?
So what Josh is looking at is the graveyard for a creature to buy back with Scarab God here on his upkeep.
Yeah, but Josh has a Torrential Gearhulk in his graveyard, so he's still looking pretty decent here. He doesn't have to do it on upkeep. He could just choose to pass here, but he does get that Scry if he opts to use the Scarab God's ability on his upkeep. But getting more information does seem valuable as well. Just knowing for sure like what you want to be doing. He could get back the Torrential Gearhulk, cast Vraska's Contempt, get some of that life back.
It's going to be really difficult. Oh, he's going to try to race. He's just going to race here. He has an attack for 10 right now.
Scry. That's a Disallow. Does he need a 4th Disallow or Disallow number 3 in his hand? I don't think so. Wow, so he's bottoming it.
Well, yeah, he's going to put it on the bottom of the library.
What does he draw? Another Scarab God.
Yeah, that's not going to get the job done here, but he's still looking to be in good shape.
If Josh can just attack for
10.
10.
Attack for 10.
Attack for 10.
He still has a Torrential Gearhulk to block on the ground, but the flyers...
But now that Josh is at 7, those flyers, that's a 3-turn clock. And Josh has 2 Disallows. I think Josh just has this locked up.
Combat.
Yep. Yeah, no matter what, it's going to be 2 draw steps.
He's got all the
There's
answers.
nothing that Owen could draw that he can't counter. Yeah. You had to figure that Josh Utter-Leyton has a way to deal with anything reasonable.
And Owen Turtenwald has no cards in hand, so Josh can safely let this resolve and end of turn just get the biggest card, the biggest creature in the graveyard. I think that might be a Rogue Refiner.
Well, they're all the same size as the Scarab God.
Sorry, I meant utility.
Yeah, yeah.
Rogue Refiner gives you the most utility.
Absolutely. And this one has slipped away from Owen Turtenwald.
Oh, there's
also looked like he might make a game of it for a second there, but too many cards in hand for Josh.
Yeah, just too many Illuminations. Didn't even need the search for Escanta. I also see, is that a Bristling Hydra maybe?
I'll tell you in a second. It's a Whirler Virtuoso.
It's a Whirler Virtuoso. Yeah. Oh, didn't even have to worry about those Thopters. He could also just make a Thopter there if he wanted to.
Yeah, he absolutely could. He doesn't really spend the energy on anything, so. Well, he decided not to. Now he has a dominant board presence here. 4-4, 5-6, 5-6, 5-5.
He's showing his hand.
Josh Utter-Leyton is actually just showing Owen Turtenwald.
In playtesting, we call this declaring victory, where your hand is just answers to literally anything that you could be doing.
Yeah, it is completely irrelevant. Whatever Owen draws off the top of his library. This is a professional courtesy, but you know Owen.
Right.
He is going to fight
to the bitter end.
Second.
This is for
that's
the top
how you
4.
should do it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Josh needs to return anything during his upkeep. but there is no way Josh can lose this game.
No, he has it on complete lockdown. Now, this is not a guaranteed slot for Josh Utter-Leyton in our top 4. He is going to be, well, he's going to be one of a group of players at X and 5.
And this is 3 damage to Owen Turtenwald and 3 scries, and I believe that was an essence extraction as well on top.
Josh Utter-Leyton putting the finishing touches on one of the big wins in his career here.
Goes up to 7.
Especially if he makes it into the top 4.
That's lethal.
He needed to win it, and that does it. Josh Utter-Leyton wins the match, improves to X and 5. That's 9 and 5 as it stands at the end of the tournament here. Obviously, another great run for Owen Turtenwald. You know, he didn't have the best weekend for him. Some things didn't quite go right, but he always scraps. He always fights. He's always in it to the bitter end, and you got to respect that. But it was Josh Utter-Leyton who was your winner here, and it looks like, well, we still got a little more magic to bring you here. We stopped in a few minutes ago on Seth Manfield versus Paulo Vitor Damarosa. Again, take a deep breath, Paul. We're okay. This one is not for top 4 contention. This is 2 players at 7 and 6 battling for merely thousands of dollars in a point.
Yeah, but kind of going back to that victory by Josh Utter-Leyton, now we have William Jensen at 12 and 2. And we now have 4 players sitting at X and 5.
That's right.
One of those players will not make the top 4 on tie breaks.
That's how it's going to go. We're going to be doing the top 4 announcement after this round is over. And, of course, Rich and the crew at the news desk are going to bring you all of the information that you're going to need to know about how things have broken down here in this final round. It has been crazy. And that is, by the way, the match going to Seth Manfield. So a solid finish for Seth, given how tough this field is. Finishing 8 and 6, you know, on a normal tournament for Seth, he wouldn't be happy with that, right? He would say 8 and 6, you know, that's a little below par for me. But, you know, no buys here, and with the level of competition out there, he finished 2 clear of the field.
I feel like if you're a world-class player, 8 and 6 is about expectation.
Yes.
That might even be slightly above expectation.
Exactly.
You know? So, like, I think he should be reasonably happy with that result, just all things considered.
Now, if you're a Jensen class player, well below.
Yeah, you're
well
really
below.
disappointed you got those losses at the end, because, I mean, he was going for the old 17-0, or 16-0, sorry.
I was mentioning it here. I got the piece of paper. It still looks weird seeing that crazy record on there. Okay, we are done with Swiss. That means that the computers are running, the numbers are getting crunched, and we're going to have our top 4 announcement. But first, this break.